So is that title an over-exaggeration? Perhaps, but since you're already here, I'm going to tell you why this is a big deal. Well, for me at least. Much like the last big Nintendo Direct before the release of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield received a small showcase of 4 features, which honestly doesn't work as well as it did last time, considering the Ultra Sun games had the segment to show the difference as a frame of comparison as to why these things were important, which leads to a lack of detail and so on. You get the idea. Even so, with a lack of detail in many of these areas, Game Freak really seems to be pulling out all the stops for this one. Customization is far deeper and ultimately makes your character and journey feel more personal as a result. Pokemon Camp seems to be another more personal take on the Pokemon and Me and refresh gameplay with even more stuff in it, and I just feel attacked that they would include a Ghost-type T Pokemon in a region inspired by the UK. It almost feels like this whole thing was just made for me. But aside from those wonderful things, I want to put today's focus on the Curry minigame. Yeah, I know, right? Not much is known about it so far, but it appears to work similarly to Pokeblock creating and Puffin making from the previous games. I'd argue that there's also going to be a lot of difference to the outcome though, and that's why I'm so excited. Gameplay like this always serves a purpose. For example, the aforementioned Pokeblocks and Puffins helped out earlier with Pokemon contests, and other non-battling / non-breeding minigames earlier in the series are no different. As far back as the first couple of generations, we've had stuff like fishing rods in the game corner. Both are simple enough, but at the end of the day, you're going to get rewarded if you do well in them. I also can't forget to mention the Pokeathlon from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which was already a fantastic group of minigames that worked outside of battles and allowed the player to grind for rare items and evolution stones just to have more stuff in the game. Those things are undoubtedly great, but what I think's got me most excited about the Curry in Sword and Shield is just how good I think Game Freak has gotten at these snippets of mini gameplay with their most recent main Pokemon outing, and how this knowledge is going to trickle down to create something even better. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon weren't mentioned at the beginning of this video for nothing, because I do genuinely think that they have the best examples of minigame-type gameplay in the entire series. Mantine Surfing is the first one that hits you, and it's clear that a lot of effort went into this simple but really fun minigame, which was needed when you consider how rushed the original Sun and Moon kind of felt. It's quite similar to the Pokeathlon in that you participate in some type of minigame to earn rare items, but unlike the Pokeathlon, Mantine Surfing was weaved so wonderfully into the region itself. From Alolan Professor Oak's history in the sport, which draws parallels to the original Oak and how good he was at Pokemon battles when he was younger, how thematically appropriate it was for a tropical setting, and just how incredible the music and presentation ended up being for a game built upon the Fractured originals. It's literally how you travel to Akala Island for the first time, and they even renamed the battle points you get from it to beach points. That's just genius. It's genius. The other recently created minigame added to the series was the Ultra Warp Ride, and provided you disable the gyro controls because they're an absolute nightmare in a fair share of handheld games, it's by far one of the most rewarding snippets of gameplay in the entire series. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like Game Freak haven't done rewarding minigames in the past. Super Training in X and Y was fantastic for an alternative way to get effort values for specific Pokemon outside of battling. But rather than continue with that approach, the Ultra Warp Ride trimmed the fat, and like Mantine Surfing, was thematically appropriate. The last few Pokemon games have been building up to a bigger picture of interdimensional travel, and this minigame fits like a glove into not only the story of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but also the lore and context of the Ultra Beasts and the recent main series entries on a large scale. You'll probably find that the portals dotted around Hoenn in the Ruby and Sapphire remakes fulfilled a similar function from a gameplay standpoint when it came to dropping most of the legendaries into the game as a post-story task to do. But this honestly just does it with so much more finesse. The worlds are wonderfully designed for each Ultra Beast, with the differences in the Pokemon you'll face at the end depending on how long you traveled for, what color portal you entered, how many rings were around said portal, and what do you even get for it. Well, Pokemon that aren't native to the Alolan Dex, legendaries from across the series, Ultra Worlds with deeper and more subtle lore than what a lot of the main story has to offer, and even shiny Pokemon that just plain reward you for getting good at the gameplay. This cohesion, this build-up, and this level of rewarding gameplay is a combination we've never seen in the series before, and done with such consideration for the scenario surrounding it. It's why I don't particularly miss the game corner anymore. Yeah, it sucks that it's gone, but you could just drop one in any region and it would be pretty much the same old game corner. You just can't do that with Mantine Surfing, and especially not the Ultra Warp Ride, and I think that this laser focus is what really shines through in Ultra Sun and Moon. And Kazumasa Iwao's vision for that game was exceptional, which kinda saddens me as I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves for the Alola that he and his team created as part of Game Freak's B team, no less. And with Iwao confirmed to be the planning director for Sword and Shield, this is looking to get so much better. With the way that it was presented in the context of the Nintendo Direct, the Curry system appears to have a lot of integration with Pokemon Camp. Refresh was already pretty great in Sun and Moon because it refined X and Y's Pokemon and Me, which was an otherwise secondary feature that got pushed to the forefront during gameplay with the after battle prompts integrated onto the touchscreen. With Game Freak's attempt to shave down the national dex in an attempt to greater increase the focus on individual Pokemon as opposed to a larger selection, I can see that mentality work within the discussion of curry and camping. Pokemon has always been fantastic at contextualizing their gameplay mechanics, and Pokemon Camp is no exception. Uniting the region design with the wild areas in a more visually distinct, personal way to bond with your Pokemon is just genius on its own. But the curry takes it a step further. We can't say for sure what benefits it offers quite yet, but with dozens of different recipes that you also craft from things that you discover within the wild area, it would make sense that specific Pokemon would prefer specific types, where Pokemon would elicit a different reaction based on their coded preference. Not only would this follow up on Game Freak's long-time commitment to seamlessly contextualizing their gameplay mechanics with their world, in this case an open-world wild area of this region dedicated to gathering ingredients, setting up camp and reaping the benefits, but it would also help build upon making the individual Pokemon just feel more special. As upset that I am about the cut of Pokemon with the shaved down national dex, I think putting a greater emphasis on making these existing Pokemon more individual through this mechanic could help ease that pain. Like, if they manage to pull this off, I'll genuinely be impressed, and based off of recent past experience, this kind of harmony within Game Freak's vision for Galar would really help elevate that experience for me. There's also gameplay implications I'd like to consider, like what if rarer curries maxed out your effort value so you didn't have to grind for that stuff at all? Or perhaps by filling in your Currydex to a certain extent, you get some super recipe or other reward that provides some amped up effect, or even just a fancy title akin to something that the Master Trainers offered in Let's Go. I'm not saying that upon completing a certain amount of the Currydex that you could challenge a super strong trainer at the Pokemon League just like Let's Go did with Red. Wait, no, actually that'd be cool as fuck. The bottom line is I'm excited. Even though I've had my grievances with Sword and Shield, I remain positively optimistic in the new features they're coming out with as part of an evolution of Game Freak's existing work. Kinda similar to that video I made on Pokemon Sleep and how Game Freak has contributed so well to passive gameplay in the past. They're not exactly known for pushing boundaries, but holy shit, I'm not gonna undermine the fun stuff they've provided outside of battles and trades because they were small additions to the game, despite how genre-defining Sinnoh's honey trees may seem to you or I. This isn't even going into the smaller aspects that we either don't know or already know how it works. The gameplay of Curry creating in and of itself with some timing thrown in there seems incredibly familiar, which is a good thing. And if, as with previous poke food items like Pokeblocks and Poffins, the curry ends up being a stepping stone to a larger mechanic with a scale similar to contests, we might be in for a real treat when it comes to extracurricular activities within the Galar region. If the curry does lead into a larger minigame, just don't make them like the Oras contests. Please, please, don't make them like the Oras contest.